Hey guys, it's David with Beagles on Fire. This is going to be a little bit of a different type of video than I've ever done. I think it's going to be on the subject of beagles and all that. It's just a different subject matter than I'm used to speaking about, and I feel it's necessary. Some things went on this past season with some different people, and I just thought that I would try to address this. It's something that we really shouldn't have to address, but unfortunately we have to. And these are some things that that beaglers do, and you deal with people that are not beaglers. I will call them rabbit hunters, but really they're more shooters. They're people that show up to come and hunt with you, but they don't own beagles. So therefore, you can't really call them beaglers. Okay, so this is geared toward people that go with those of us who own dogs, and I'm not saying they're all bad. It's fun to go with people and hunt and everything like that, but just from a beagler standpoint, it'll make sense the more you watch here. So there's some things that beaglers do that make the hunt possible. A lot of you guys, most of you watching this are guys who own beagles, but there may be somebody that watches this that doesn't own beagles. And that's who I'm trying to target a little bit here is, what do we go through to get ready for a season? Well, first of all, obviously you've got to have dogs to be a beagler. You've got to have hounds. And so a lot of times you buy hounds, you raise puppies and you train them. So there's various ways that guys come about dogs, but the bottom line is they have money invested in those dogs. If they bought them, depending on different circumstances, they could have a fair amount of money tied up in those dogs. If they've got good ones, chances are they do. If they raise their own and they train them and they've got good dogs, they've spent a lot of time. So, the things they do is they get the dogs in shape for season, and if you go with somebody who's got real good dogs and they don't run deer, they have deer-proof those dogs, or they bought dogs that were already deer-proof and not trash runners. I remember back when I first wanted to go hunting on my own farm in Mississippi before I had any beagles. I invited a guy. He said, "Oh man," said, "I'd love to go with you." I said, "Well, I'd love to go with you. You got dogs. I don't have any dogs." "Oh yeah, I got dogs." So he showed up. We spent about an hour or so rabbit hunting, and then they jumped a deer. And the rest of the day was spent trying to locate them, and several days later they showed up, and he told me, he said, "Well, I'm not going to be able to hunt down there where you're at because you just have too many deer." And of course I didn't know anything about it back then, but I did know there were shot collars, and he was too cheap to buy those and utilize it for his dogs. And I found out later that he did carry some buckshot in his gun, and he would shoot deer while he was out rabbit hunting, and then he wondered why he was having a problem. But if you're hunting with somebody good, they've went to the trouble to buy collars and take the time to get their dogs to understand that rabbits are the only thing we're going to run. They've spent hours of time in the field with these dogs. We have spent money on kennels. We've spent money on vet bills. We try to do a lot of stuff on our own, but everything you buy that has to do with a dog is not cheap. Shots, wormer, all those things add up. Dog food, it gets more expensive, it seems like, every time we turn around. Dog food's going up in price, and if you're feeding good dog food, that costs you money. And then a GPS system is not cheap, and then dog boxes are not cheap. And so when a guy shows up to either run on your land or you go with him and he's got dogs, he's got a lot of money tied up in all the different things that he has. You show up, you've got money tied up in your boots maybe, and your gun that you show up in shells. But he's got all that as well, plus all the expenses I just mentioned. And so the other thing is if you're hunting on land that he has leased or he owns, that's a whole nother expense that he's got. And so, the other thing is that us beaglers, we really love our hounds. Why do we love them so much? Well, they're like family to us. If we spend a lot of time with them, then they're like family to us when we go out with them. and we get real close to some of these dogs. And some of these dogs are, when you lose one, it's like losing a family member. And there are best hunting buddies that we have. I mean, I enjoy going hunting with a lot of my guys that I hunt with, but I'm gonna tell you something. My best hunting buddies are my dogs. We're like a team, and we go out there and we enjoy things together. And I get to watch what they do. I get to watch them develop. I get to see them the first time that they really light up as a pup, and get to see them the first time we harvest a rabbit with them, and the excitement and the craziness that they go through. And then I get to see them when they start to understand even more about it, get more experienced, and then when they realize, hey, I'm only supposed to run a rabbit, and you get them to that point where you don't have to worry about them running trash. All of that is steps that you've made forward with them, and it's like a hunting buddy that's developed. It's really like taking a child and watching them develop into a hunter on a scale of more than just one or two kids, if you've got a pack. And we're a team, like I said. And so there's all that goes on to it and becomes part of it for us as beaglers. So when we go out, we've got a lot of money tied up, a lot of time tied up, and we've also got an emotional connection there with our dogs. And then there's, this goes on all the time, and those of us that have dogs joke about it, and I've seen it firsthand. I saw a guy one time that I hunt with now, and back when I first met him, he had some so-called partners. They were going to be in it together. Well, it became very apparent what was going on. He had to feed them and have them at his house. And when the guy who supposedly was a partner went with us, he sat at a concrete picnic table on some public land, sipping coffee while we all loaded up the dogs. So I guess he was above that. So there's some things you can do to make a beagler happy when you do go with them and make them feel appreciated. And one is you can help him load his dogs if the dogs will allow you to pick them up. You need to check with him first, but most dogs will help you. They'll come to you. They're usually friendly, and just help him. Say, here, show him you care, and pick up his dog and help him load it. And stay and help clean the rabbits. Now that sounds like that ought to be a given. I can't tell you how many hunts I've gone on where guys are always happy to shoot rabbits, but when it comes time to clean them, they somehow have something else going on. They all of a sudden have to go somewhere, or they got a phone call, or all kind of things. Or they'll stand around and drink a drink and watch you do the work after you've showed up with all the dogs and everything else. So that's kind of ridiculous, really, on the part of someone that shows up for a hunt. Everybody ought to pitch in. Everybody was there for the harvest. They ought to be there for the cleaning as well. And then, a lot of times the beagler shows up, and if he's got a group of guys, he's the one bringing the snacks and the drinks or the biscuits for breakfast or lunch or whatever. And really, that should never be his responsibility. I mean, he's got all this money tied up in these dogs, and he's been kind enough to take you out hunting with his dogs or go with you to a spot you have. The least you could do is show up with those items and say, hey, man, it's on us. You got a lot of money tied up on those dogs. We appreciate you coming. Here you go. A lot of times, guys, that, all of us beaglers, when we have a dog, it's like having cattle, like milk cows. There is no off day. Now, some guys may not feed their dogs every day. I personally feed mine every single day. So it's a 365 days a year that you got to take care of these dogs. They need water, they need cleaned out, they need fed and taken care of. And so, when we go on vacation, we have to either get people and pay them to take care of our dogs, or, we have a buddy that takes care of it, or whatever the case may be. But if you're going to go with people who have dogs, the least you could do is say, hey, man, when you got to go somewhere out of town, I appreciate you letting me go hunting with your dogs. Let me take care of them. Just call me and let me know. I'll be happy to take care of them. Just tell me what I need to do, and I'm there, and I'll take care of them. And that would show that you really appreciate this guy for showing up and bringing his dogs and hunting and everything, because without the dogs, you wouldn't be getting anywhere near the amount of rabbits that you get. And so it's very important, maybe buy him some dog food or give him some money. But if you're going to buy him some dog food, find out what kind he feeds, because they don't want you showing up with some different kind of food. But if you did that, I believe most of us beaglers would fall out if somebody did that. I've had that happen a few times, but most people that show up to hunt rabbits with you. They want to show up and they want to leave, and they're not interested in helping you do anything. If your dog gets away, oh, well, sorry you're having trouble finding your dog. Hope you get him. Give me a call and let me know. Instead of staying there and helping you look for him, they split. They head out. And, you know, there are some things that you should never do to a beagler, and that's invite others to hunt without asking. Now, if it's your land, then that's a different story. But if you're going and a guy says, yeah, you can come, I mean, you don't know how many people are going to be there. And as a beagler, we don't like big crowds for safety issues. So don't assume that because you're allowed to come that you can bring 3 or 4 or 5 buddies. That's just not the right way to do it. And, you know, another thing that you shouldn't do is go to the spot. If he took you there, if the beagler that had the dogs took you to a spot, even if it was public land, I don't think it's ethically right to take a bunch of other people to that spot. And you can go to that spot and hunt it out, and that's where he goes all the time, and he lets you go, and then all of a sudden, boom, now everybody's telling somebody about a spot we went to, or this or that. So those are the reasons why a lot of guys just refuse to hunt with other people, is for that reason. Some of them will destroy the habitat on the land that you have. I mean, I've heard stories of people riding four-wheelers and side-by-sides over briar thickets with guns trying to shoot rabbits when they come out. To me, that's unethical and should never be done. I've heard of people using machinery to go cut stuff and everything else and shooting rabbits when they come out. Ridiculous. I mean, that's not the sport of rabbit hunting. That's just a bunch of killers. In my opinion, it's really poaching. If you want to know the truth about it, it's not ethical at all and should never be done, but yet it is by some people. And you can tell a lot by people that do that. And then, you know, basically hunt carelessly with no thought of any being safe. You're just unsafe when you go out to hunt. I mean, I have seen some crazy stuff that's happened. Some people that were, one guy was a professional, and I did a rabbit hunt for charity and took him on the guided rabbit hunt. We always do our safety talk and all that. And this guy tripped and fell one time with a shotgun in his hand, and he told the other guy, he said, oh yeah, just go ahead and have your safety off. Just keep your finger off the trigger. Well, from that point on, I made sure I was nowhere in front of that guy or beside that guy at all. It was really crazy, and that's just not a guy I want to hunt with if they're going to be that dumb. That's just stupid, really. And, you know, speaking of gun safety, we'll get into something in a little while that I would like to address that I have seen time and time again by guys who are beaglers and by guys who are, you know, shooters, go on a rabbit hunt, don't have a dog. We'll get into that a little while. But, you know, if you take a shot that is unsafe, then that's really not good at all and should never be done. I mean, you know, this is just a little ball of fur, and most of you don't care two cents about whether or not you carry them home. You want to give them away to other people, but you'll take risk, and I don't understand that. If you're a beagler and you're not having safety talks before you go out, I strongly encourage you to do so and tell the people that if they shoot a dog, they're going to pay for that dog. If they don't like that, then don't hunt with them. I had 3 incidents I heard about this season, and it's my goal to give those stories as the reason as to why we did this. But before I do that, I want to talk about the one thing I've seen people doing that is not safe. And this is done by some beaglers. It's done by some guys that just carry a gun. So I'd like to share that with you. All right, I'm making this up here in my office. It's a new office that we've built up near the kennel. Some of you have been here, and we worked on this, and I'll have it completed soon. It's pretty much, it's 99% complete. But I'm doing this in my office, the first video I've shot up here. But I wanted to talk about gun safety. Now, right now, I've got my 28 gauge. I personally use a Beretta Explorer, and it's a 28 gauge. It's what I use. I really like it a lot. It's my favorite gun to hunt with. I had a 20 gauge, but I really like this 28 gauge a whole lot better. And as you can see, this is totally unloaded, lest anybody think I would be stupid enough to try this. I don't even like doing this, but I'm going to do it for the purpose of educating and hunter safety. When I was a kid growing up, from the time I was old enough to even remember anything, I had a BB gun, a little Red Ryder BB gun that I would carry. And I remember one time I was carrying it like this, and my grandpa and my dad were walking. And all of a sudden I got hit up beside the back of my head by my grandpa. Son, that gun's pointing at somebody. You always carry it straight up like this. You don't ever carry it like this where you're swinging around at people, or you point it straight in the ground when you're walking. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. It was drilled in my head as a kid to always be safe with a gun. And I never forgot that. And that's the way I trained my son. And that's the way I train my grandkids, is don't ever point that gun at anybody. But yet I see rabbit hunters carrying their gun like this, and they'll turn their head like this and look around, and every time they do that, it's swinging right by people's heads. And I'm sitting there, like this sometimes. And that's one thing I see that should never happen. You should never let that gun point at anybody or anything that doesn't need to be shot, okay? The other thing that I see happen is I see guys taking their gun and resting it on their boot like this while it's loaded. They've got that gun and they're just resting it on their toe like that, standing there waiting. Now guys, I'll be the first to tell you that the chances of the gun going off are not real high because of safety zone, but shotguns have been known to go off. Why would you put it on your foot where to blow your toes off? You're never going to get that back. But I see that happen a lot. Makes me cringe. The other thing I see, and I've seen this done by guys that were in law enforcement. I've seen it done by all kinds of people. Once again, I told you this gun is not loaded, but every gun has to be treated as if it's loaded. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you what I've been seeing. Guys will stand there like this with their hands over the barrel of the gun with it loaded, looking around, doing this number, and if that gun went off, it just blew both your hands up and you won't be able to hunt again. Now, why would you take that risk? It makes no sense to me. But the main reason for that I'm doing this, is if you're an adult and you're out there doing these crazy, silly things like that, you're teaching the kids that that's okay. And that is not okay. And putting it on your toe is not okay. And swinging it around like this is not okay. And so I encourage you to be the right example to the kids, which will bring me to my next thing I want to talk about with these stories of what's happened this past hunting season. Well, I had to reshoot this segment because I was looking back through my video clip that I had made, and about halfway through, the sound went out. It was just my lips were moving, but there was no sound, which I realized for some of y'all would probably be a blessing. But anyhow, I want to tell you these three stories that happened. But before I get into that, there was one thing that I forgot on the segment where I talked about things that you don't do to a beagler. And one other thing I would add to that would be that you don't shoot at any off game. You're there to rabbit hunt. He's got his dogs there. You're there to rabbit hunt. Unless otherwise specified, I would not shoot anything but a rabbit unless he's okay with that. If he's okay with that, we discussed it earlier. And as a beagler, you need to tell people what to do and what not to do. If they're offended by it, I'm sorry, but it's better to have got all that out in the front than to have to deal with that later. Here you are working your dogs, and some guy's got a little bored because the action's not fast enough for him, and he decides to shoot a squirrel or a bird or whatever, and scares you, might scare the dogs a little bit, I don't know, but that's just something I wouldn't do if I was a person hunting with a guy who had dogs. So anyhow, I have these three stories from this hunting season that are sad that customers had reached out to me and told me about that I wanted to share with you in hopes that this will not happen in your hunting experience. If you're a guy who owns dogs, I hope it doesn't happen to you. If you're a guy who goes hunting with people, I hope that you're not even in the party when it does happen, let alone be the one that does this. So I'll start off with the first one that doesn't even involve a gun, but a guy called me or actually text me and sent a picture and said, I lost a good one today. I need another dog like this one. I can't believe this. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, the dog got run over. I thought, okay, not gonna lie, my first thoughts were, well, he must have been hunting a little too close to the road, which is a no-no, but that's not what happened here. What happened here was he was hunting way back in a spot he was supposed to be in. And they were all back there hunting, and some guy who was come to join them, I don't know if he was late to the show or what happened, but they had told him, where to park and not to come back there. They had dogs on the ground. The guy ignored that, went back, run over this dog while it was in a bush hog lane and killed the dog. Should have never happened. And the guy was really upset that he lost his dog, really upset with this guy that ran his dog over. And the salt in the wound was the guy said, well, I don't really see how it's my responsibility. And then finally, after a while, offered the guy $250 for the dog. Now, guys, first of all, the person who's setting the price on what should be paid for the dog when a mistake is made, an accident, whatever you want to call it, it shouldn't be the guy who doesn't own the dog. It should be the dog owner. He's the one who knows what his dog was worth. And it's not going to be some outrageous, this dog was worth $15,000 to me. It should be something that's of reason, but it should not be set by somebody who doesn't have a clue what a dog is worth. And I will tell you this, when I lost my dog a few years back to a gunshot, I was paid for that dog. But I didn't want the money. We don't want the money. We want to go home with our dog. But even then, if you pay for one dog, it's a female, and that female was going to be used to breed and raise some pups for you, for your future, or whatever, in my case, to make some more started dogs. I didn't just lose that dog. I lost all the future dogs I would have got out of that dog. So how do you put a value on that? Just a shame when it happens. And we lose enough dogs to things that are out of our control. I lost a dog to a black bear a few years back. That wasn't anybody's fault. We were hunting along, didn't know there was any black bear even in that area at all. And was a female with cubs. Dog was just hunting along. She came out. Nature did what nature did. And sad situation. Nobody to blame. I didn't do anything wrong. Landowner didn't do anything wrong. Just one of those sad things that happens. As a matter of fact, I lost a dog about 2 weeks ago here to kidney failure. A dog named Mina. Not very old, and really hurts. It hurts when that happens, but there's not anything you can do about it except move on. But there is something you can do about stupidity. When you lose a dog to stupidity, that really hurts a lot because it didn't need to happen. And that one that got run over was basically stupidity, in my opinion. It should have never happened. If you're in an area where dogs are on the ground, you need to either just stop, or you need to make sure somebody's there telling you it's okay to come on forward. Because these dogs, they don't know about vehicles. They're used to hunting and running rabbits. Second call I got, these are not in any certain order. They're just 3 of them I got during the season. But a guy went out, and what was supposed to have been a fun time with family hunting rabbits turned tragic when someone made the mistake of shooting at movement in the thicket. You can't just shoot at movement in the thicket, guys. We should all know that. That's how I lost my dog. My dog was in there hunting and moving. Guy thought it might be a rabbit, so he just shot. Turns out it was a dog, and he killed her. And that's what happened on this one. Real nice hound. It's always one of the nicest hounds you got that this happens to. Not that you wish it on any of your dogs, but it's always that one that you don't want to live without that this happens to, seems like. And so the guy shot the dog, and the guy was upset because he had a lot of time in this dog. This dog's probably, it was his 2nd or 3rd season. Dog was really coming on and really, really in its prime. And now it's been cut down. So, once again, another situation to where, you can pay for the dog, but you can't take back the pain that guy's going through or anything else. I don't know. I'm assuming the guy's going to get paid for the dog or has been paid for the dog. I don't know. That's not what's important. What's important is it should have never happened. And so you've got to be careful. Guys are taking chances on shooting at a rabbit. And in my in my safety talks, I always say this: there is no such thing as a world-class Boone and Crockett rabbit. They're all just a ball of fur. The dogs will run them. If they don't circle that one back, they'll get another one. Who cares? Most of the people that are taking these chances at shooting stuff are guys that don't really even want the rabbit. They just want to kill something. And, you know, at the bottom line at the end of the day is, it's not important. What difference does it make if you put 15 on the tailgate or 9 on the tailgate? Was it worth the risk to get one more at the expense of possibly shooting a dog? No, never. Most of the guys that do that don't even take any of them home. They don't want them. Y'all just have them. But they'll take a chance. And you shouldn't take a chance. You should know what you're shooting at, always. And the third one that I have to tell you about, I got a phone call. And this guy is a really nice guy. He's a good friend of mine. He's a nice guy, and he would do anything for you. He'd give you the shirt off his back. And so he loves kids, and he's got a young kid. And a friend of his kid said to the guy, he said, "Mister," I'm not going to name his name, "would it be possible, my birthday's coming up, would it be possible for me to go rabbit hunting with you with some of my buddies?" And my buddy told him, said, "We can make that happen, but you need to bring your dad. Each of you kids need to bring your dads." Which, first of all, unless there's some excruciating circumstances, you can't get off work or this or that, as a dad, you ought to be there with your kid to go hunting. You should take your kid hunting. And when you got kids in the group, which I know some people will be like, "There ain't no kids hunting with me." Well, I'm going to tell you, I was a kid, and I got to go. Now, I always had to be with an adult until I reached the age where I had shown enough of safety to be trusted on my own. But this situation here, the dad showed up, and long story short, some kids had shot some rabbits and had a successful hunt. But the guy who owned the dogs, one of the kids with him had shot a rabbit and got it. And he looked down and he heard some shots, and he looked down and he saw this adult that kept looking back behind him and just kept looking back behind him. And he was like, "What is he doing?" And all of a sudden, they start bringing the dog over to the owner. The owner's son is there, young guy. This is his dog, and belongs to the family there, Beagles. Was a dog that was in the second season, coming on super strong, just having an outstanding time, and was shot in the face at basically point blank range, because you can't blow part of a dog's face off and not mess up the collar or anything unless you basically were right there with the barrel practically on the dog's head. So very, very close shot. And it did not kill the dog instantly. And so here's the guy trying to deal with kids, worried about his kid being upset, trying to hold back his own anger from the stupidity of what had just happened, and yet try to be the right example to all the kids who are looking at him. And so the guy did not pay for the dog, did not really say a whole lot, almost acted like, hey, it's just part of it, I guess, whatever. And the sad part is these young kids are watching, and he was supposed to be watching the kids he was with and guiding them to safety, make sure nothing happened. Now, I can tell you this. When I trained my son, when he was young, it was not about how many rabbits we killed. It was about making sure that everything was safe. I took him on several hunts where I would stand beside him. And when a dog came out in the lane, I would take his gun barrel and push it up in the air and say, "That's a dog." To the point that he said, "Dad, I know." I said, "Son, I'm making sure you know. Because if you ever shot a dog, you probably wouldn't want to hunt again." And that's the other issue of it, is it's bad enough to lose a dog. And this guy who owned this dog was upset at losing the dog, but even more upset at the possibility that his own son might never want to go hunting again because of what he had seen and the fact that his dog had got shot. And so, there's a lot more to it than just the loss of the dog, which is a terrible thing. And so I tell you these stories not to be gory or anything like that, but to say, hey, you know, let's learn from this. And what kind of example are we setting to kids when we have a dog shot? Immediately he should have said, hey, I am so sorry this happened. Let me pay for this dog. What can I do? You tell me. Knowing the guy's upset and understanding, let me give him some space, but immediately saying, I'm going to take care of this. This is my responsibility. Because when you're a father and you're out with your child, you're responsible for that child, whatever it does. And here's the saddest part of that whole story. When they got done, got in, had to put the dog down, when they got in the truck, a kid that was with the dog owner said, I'm so sorry that happened. If that had been me, my daddy would have paid you for that dog, and then I would have had to have worked and paid my daddy back. Now that's a kid that's being raised the right way. That is a kid that understands, and that's the way I was raised. You know, if you mess something up, you're going to pay for it. Whether the person you messed it up on said don't worry about it or not, you're going to go over there and work and pay that back. It could have been something as silly as you stepped on a lady's flowers in her flower garden, and you know they didn't cost that much. You were going to go over there and work. But they were building character in us. Nowadays, it seems that parents are teaching children that nothing is your fault and there is no responsibility. Don't worry about it. It was just a dog, basically, is what he's teaching that kid, which it's not just a dog. I hate that statement, that it's just a dog, because to us, it is everything that we want in the rabbit hunting world. It's not just a dog. And so I don't know if this has helped anyone, but I hope it does. I hope that it helps you to understand to be safe. Some of you that watch this may have been guilty of some of those gun safety things I talked about. I'm not better than anybody else. I just bring it to your attention because I hate to hear of anybody having an accident. I hate to hear of anybody having things happen to them. And at the end of the day, at the end of the hunt, the most important thing is always that each of us go home safe and that each of our dogs go home safe and get to hunt another day. This business of dogs dying because of stupid things and people just not thinking has got to come to an end. It's ridiculous, guys. I mean, think about it. If something happened to your truck, which you can go get another truck, you don't have an emotional attachment to your truck. But if some guy shot and peppered your truck and you went crazy, and they turned around and said, well, it's just a truck. Really? Would that be okay with you? I don't think so. I think the main thing is we got to respect each other, respect each other's belongings, and respect the fact that a man has worked real hard to allow the dogs to get to a state that you can go enjoy them. Here's the other funny part about all of it, and I'll just wrap it up with this. It's very funny to me that guys won't call you all year long. Once hunting season's over for them, which is their deer season, then they want something to do. Hey, man, you got some rabbit dogs? I want to go rabbit hunting. So they want to show up and have some fun. But then if they had a real nice place to go fishing, a real nice place to go turkey hunting, or anything else like that, do you think they would call you? Chances are they won't. You're just there to be used most of the time. That's the life of a beagler in a lot of instances. I hope this changes some people's hearts and minds, but especially that it changes the safety issues. Y'all have a great day.